since we've had the government shut down at midnight? Are negotiations continuing? Where do things stand now in this process?
We stand ready to negotiate. We have for a significant period of time with Senator Reid and the President. Unfortunately, they have chosen basically to lock the doors and shut everybody out as the government has been shut down. But I will tell you that we expect to have several smaller continuing resolutions on the floor tonight, which will include some Veterans Affairs funding, also the Interior Department and the District of Columbia. So we will be sending those over to the Senate. The President has already signaled that he doesn't think that it's the appropriate way to do it, but it appears the only way we're going to be able to get something through the Senate is to do it piecemeal.
Congressman, you mentioned the VA affairs, and there's been some confusion, it would seem, over funding for instance, we know that active duty military will get funded, they'll continue to get paid. What about benefits for veterans?
You know, it's really interesting because as the President was talking last night at one of his press conferences, he was saying that veterans would not get the benefits that they had earned, that the folks that were suffering from PTSD and the vet centers would be closed. In fact, that's not true. The Congress several years ago advance funded almost 83% of VA's $140 billion budget. So to say that veterans right now are not going to get their disability payments is disingenuous at best. We are going to go ahead and close the gap on the other 17% tonight, and hopefully the Senate will go along with it, and then there will be no question as to what actual programs within VA are going to be paid for.
All right, and we read a statement earlier from the VA that basically said that even though they have essentially funded it ahead of time, that it will run out at the end of October for certain services, compensation, pension, education, those sorts of things through late October. Are any of these provisions addressing that, or will this end in late October?
No, this will actually go till December the 15th. So it is still a short-term continuing resolution, but hopefully it will give us the opportunity to go back to what we call regular order. We've already passed 5 funding bills through the House and have sent them over. You know, this whole situation in regards to pay for the military was not necessary because the House had already sent its DOD appropriations bill over to the Senate, and it has languished over there. They've chosen not to pass any of the appropriation bills. So we again have asked them to go ahead and appoint conferees to allow us to begin the negotiation process back and forth between the House and the Senate, which is regular order. It's not the way we would like it to be. Nobody wanted the government to shut down. We had passed bills that actually funded the federal government, but the Senate kept tabling them and basically not. And the senator, the majority leader, Harry Reid, has tried to prevent his vulnerable Democrats from taking tough votes. They did that last night by basically tabling a bill that we had sent over there and chosen not to make them vote on these particular issues.
Well, you know, obviously the sticking point is the Affordable Health Care Act, and it seems like there's even some division within the Republican Party as to how they want to proceed with that. There was a small faction that wanted to push forward a bill that basically set aside the Obamacare until they could address it later on. Would you support a measure like that, or what were your thoughts on that, trying to move forward with funding the rest and then addressing the Obamacare later?
I think that folks that think that this is just about Obamacare are a little bit short-sighted. This is about spending at the federal government. You know, we are about to approach a point where we no longer have the money within our federal government with which to operate on as we would normally do it, and extraordinary options are being undertaken right now. So this is, while Obamacare may have been one of the central focuses of the debate, this is about spending and fiscal restraint in Washington, D.C. And unfortunately, this is going to be a battle that we're going to have to fight not only on the continuing resolution that exists before us now, but when we come to the debt ceiling again. You know, we had the Budget Control Act of a couple of years ago that put sequester in place. Nobody wanted to see that, but that was the only way that we could force the Democrats into a situation where funding would have to be cut at the federal level. And we have, in fact, seen now where we have seen deficits begin to decrease to low levels. Now, the president wants to take credit for that, but the fact is it was the Budget Control Act that did it.
All right, well, switching gears for a second, let's talk about public perception. We're hearing from some polls that Americans simply aren't happy with Congress in general, that they feel like that this is a big power play between Congress and the president and even members within the House and the Senate. So what are your thoughts on that? It's at all-time low in popularity polls for a lot of Americans. Do you feel like that these politicians are putting what's best for the country ahead of putting their interests ahead of what's best for the country?
Well, if people think that a $17 trillion debt is an acceptable number for the country to have, they probably don't think that people like me are doing the job that we were sent to Washington to do. In fact, it is our job to rein spending back in, to bend that curve downward if we possibly can. Looking at national polls, it's very easy to see because you have Democrats and Republicans, and you have Democrats that don't like Republicans and vice versa, so the number is somewhat depressed. But I will tell you this, we are going to continue to work and try to get the Senate and the President to at least negotiate on some of these issues. Basically, they have said no, no, no at every turn, and that is not the way government is supposed to work. Again, the House sent 3 different pieces of legislation over to the Senate that funded the government. They try to blame us when in fact they're the ones that shot the bills down, wouldn't even come back to the House and negotiate. They just wouldn't vote on them.
All right. Well, Congressman, I think that wraps it up for us with our questions here. Is there anything else that you think would be important for your constituents here?
Nope, that's good for now,
Florida?
but we'll talk some more.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for taking time for us this afternoon. I'm sure we'll be continuing to get up with you and find out what's going on up there.